last week.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Emmaus Borough Council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to note for the record that Councilwoman McManaman will not be here this evening. We'll have personal appeals part 1. If you have a personal appeal, please approach the podium, sign in, state your name, and you have 5 minutes for your appeal. Hearing none, does anyone have a community minute to bring forward?
I guess I can say. Yeah, why not? So
Keeping your reputation.
Saturday we have a little event in town. It brings a few people. You may have heard of it. It's the Emmaus Halloween Parade. So everyone come out. I don't know how many council are going to be walking with us there and handing out some candy. So come one, come all. If you're going to dress up, Wes usually dresses, I know, after the run. So look forward to seeing everybody there and everybody in town.
Well, I hope you all enjoy yourself. This will be 2 years in a row I'll be working that night, so unfortunately I won't be there.
I'll be walking, yeah. But the
I-
banner is downstairs, that's your responsibility.
What's that?
The banner is your responsibility.
It's usually my daughter. His kids might be old enough now, though.
Yeah, but we always join you halfway. So.
At this time, we'll have a special presentation by Jason Smith from Hanover Engineering. It's going to be a public hearing on MS4 program, and he'll explain all about it.
And I will stand the whole time.
Do we have the tripod? No, we don't have it up here anymore. Oh, maybe in the closet.
That's
We
fine.
can see that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Can you see it well enough? I don't want to.
Yeah.
No, it's.
At least from here.
Very good. My name is Jason Smith, and
Do we want to use the
Hanover
microphone?
Engineering.
Probably should.
Can you sit down? We
Yeah,
need
if
to
you wanna
use
sit-
the
actually, you
microphone.
can actually even
Alright,
pick the
just hold
microphone
it,
up.
Yeah.
There you go. That's fine.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Nope.
Is it on? Jeff, you
There
broke
you
it.
go.
Now,
Okay. A little better. Okay, my name is Jason Smith. I am with Hanover Engineering. I've been working with the borough now for many years on your MS4 stormwater management planning. And one of the important and critical steps going forward with this program is the development of the pollution reduction plan, which is designed to remove 10% of sediment and potentially some nutrients, but in your case, it's going to be sediments from stormwater from the borough. The plan that I'm presenting tonight is indeed a draft plan at this point, so it is subject to change. We've already had to note a few changes that we're going to need to make, just getting some clarification from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection about some of the modeling work that was done because of certain best management practices that were proposed, which I will explain. There may be other things that come up. We've received some public comments already, and we will look at addressing some of them. Some of them certainly will help to make the plan a little more clear, a little better, maybe to other people that aren't as familiar with this program. This is a public presentation of the plan. It's required as part of the process, so any comments that I get or questions that we get tonight need to be submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection when we submit the plan in 2 weeks. So if I can get any of those questions recorded tonight and in the minutes, I would
They're on
appreciate
video.
it. Okay. And please know that if you're asking me questions or have any comments, that they will go into DEP as part of our submission materials. The pollution reduction plan, again, it was designed for removing 10% of sediments from the streams that are here within the borough. All the streams and all the land area within the borough drain to the Little Lehigh Creek, so that did help with the planning effort a little bit. Some other municipalities have as many as 3 or 4 different watersheds that we have to look at as part of their plan, so we just had to do the one here. But as you're aware, the Little Lehigh Creek has very excellent water quality, and that's one of the reasons that you have an individual permit here in the borough. As part of the planning process, what we do is we look at the planning area for the municipality, which in the case of boroughs is generally the entire borough, is the urbanized area, and most of that area becomes part of the planning area for this project. The planning area is actually the portions of the borough that drain to the regulated outfalls that we've identified over the past 15 years as part of this program. That list has been refined over the years as there have been clarifications come down from above on what represents a regulated MS4 discharge. Basically, that's any concentrated discharge of stormwater from either borough land, borough roadways, or from private lands that come onto borough lands, such as parks and the roadways. So if there's water that's being discharged from any borough property in any way into waters of the Commonwealth, including wetlands, those discharge points are regulated MS4 discharges. So the planning area would be those drainage areas to those various points. We have, I believe, at this time, 61 points within the borough. What we had to do was delineate all of the drainage areas to them. This is a map that shows those 60-some points that we have identified. They're generally along the stream corridors that run through the borough. And then as part of that modeling, we look at the land use within the borough. There's different sediment loading coefficients for those different land uses. We take those drainage areas to each one of those points that's in your planning area. We use the land use, basically multiply the area of the land times those coefficients for sediment loads to get a total existing sediment load for the planning area within the borough. In this case, that we had a total acreage of planning area of 1,268 acres of the borough that's part of your planning area. And with that, we had an existing sediment load annually of 185,253 pounds per year. Okay, so that's how much sediment is coming off of that planning area in a year's time. DEP and EPA are requiring a 10% reduction of that over the next 5-year permit term. When calculating the 10%, then it is 18,525 pounds per year that must be removed from stormwater from the planning area of the borough. In order to accomplish that, we looked at various ways of controlling the stormwater and getting better pollutant removals. There are a number of stormwater basins and swales that are here in the borough, a lot of inlets that can be reconfigured to better remove sediment from stormwater. So we looked at those as the low-hanging fruit. Any existing facilities that can be improved and made better tends to be the bang for the buck. It has the most cost-effective means of getting that removal. So as part of that, we worked with the borough. We met with borough staff. We reviewed all the mapping that we had come up with, and we came up with a whole bunch of best management practices that we think will work well and help to control costs in accomplishing this plan. This gets a little bit hard to see, but each one of these white labels represents a basin or a swale that exists here in the borough that can be improved or retrofitted to be made better. Those retrofits generally include making them a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper, planting them with better vegetation and letting that vegetation grow up. And for the basins, it would definitely include retrofitting of the outfall structure to capture more of that stormwater, hold it a little bit longer, or retain it better so that more sediment settles out in the basin and the clean water leaves the basin. They work very well for getting sediment removal. DEP has put out a chart that we're to use for these plan developments and really for the NPDES program in general that talks about efficiencies of these various best management practices. It says what the efficiency level is for sediments and different nutrients. For sediments, these basins and swales generally get about 80% removal. So if we say that 10 pounds comes into the basin, only 2 pounds would leave if we retrofit the basin correctly. So 8 pounds would stay in the basins. Right now, those basins, the way they're designed, they generally don't hold anything back. They pass material through. They're mainly for the control of floodwater and peak flows, not for control of sediment and stormwater quality necessarily. So the retrofits would improve it for stormwater quality. So what we did is we took the numbers that we got for the existing load that we calculated for each one of the drainage areas to those basins, and also inlets where we can put filter bags inside of existing stormwater inlets where the water pours down in. They're like big coffee filters and they catch a lot of the sediments. They need maintenance. All this stuff needs maintenance going forward. But we looked at those areas and we applied those coefficients, those removal coefficients, to the existing loads, to each one of them. And in doing so, we ended up with the amount that we could remove. And in looking at the calculations, which again, we've revised because of the street sweeping, and like I said, I'll talk about that too in a minute. In looking at that, we had 15 inlets within the borough that met the criteria for inlet bags. We've since found out that DEP has relaxed the criteria on that. They are allowing a little bit larger drainage areas to the inlets where bags could be used. It used to be a half acre or less. Now they're saying it can be more, but we can only take a limited amount of credit for each one of them because the bigger the drainage area gets, the less efficient, I suppose, the filter bags become. So we still can add some if we need to. Those filter bags are a pretty good way to get some removal. But as you would see, the basins and the bioswales produce the biggest bang for the buck. We get removals in the order of thousands of pounds per year from basins where we get it in the tens of pounds from inlet filter bags. Originally, street sweeping, because the modeling that we use does not account for certain things, we could not directly correlate well how much removal we would get from street sweeping. We used a coefficient for the removal for street sweeping that was higher than what DEP is saying they will allow us to use. I went through that with them. They explained their reasoning on it, and it's okay, it's sound. The modeling is difficult, I would say, at best, because it's simplistic modeling. And so when there's holes in it, it's hard to figure out exactly how you're going to patch those holes and figure out ways to make sense of the process. So we reduced the number that we were going to get from street sweeping down to what they told us the allowed maximum would be. And that's been adjusted now. The good news is we still can accomplish the amount of removal necessary to get 10%. We actually will still have a surplus amount. If we were to implement all the BMPs, we would actually go over the limit by about 3,000 pounds. We're required 18,500, and we can get actually 21,335 with all the BMPs that we've looked at so far and the street sweeping. So it's a good plan at this point. The street sweeping is already being done. There's nothing more that needs to be done for that. The borough does the sweeping, I guess we said, approximately 40 times a year. DEP requires 25 times a year to qualify for the plan. So then you have the right equipment. It's the good street sweeping equipment. So street sweeping is certainly something we want to take credit for in the plan. It just didn't give us as much as we hoped for removals, but it is still a very good means of keeping sediment out of our waterways. DEP is very encouraged to know that the borough is doing that. A lot of boroughs don't have the right equipment or don't sweep often enough. So in my conversations with them, they were very happy to hear this. So in getting to the costs of the program, I was talking with Shane about it. Again, this stuff's all in drafts, so some things may get revised, and this is a very preliminary cost estimate that we did. We did not include the street sweeping in the estimate because it's already an existing program that's being done. That cost could be added into the program at the borough's discretion at a later date. To do the basin retrofits for the 7 basins and bioswales, and to plant 50 trees within the basin over the course of 5 years. They're street trees, they'd be larger street trees, and the 15 inlet filter bags that are currently planned. The estimated construction cost comes to a total of $702,000. As you know, and that's really a soup to nuts cost. That includes the design, the engineering, the bidding, construction, and that's at prevailing wage rates and whatnot if things have to be bid out. So we feel for right now it's a pretty good rough estimate of a worst case scenario on costs. It's still not terrible as a cost compared to what we've heard from some other planning efforts. So maybe that's the good side of that. In order to fund these programs, generally municipalities are looking at implementing a stormwater fee, And that's the next step. We will have to be working with the borough on how this program gets funded. It's obviously $702,000 over the course of 5 years is going to have to come from somewhere. Grant money doesn't necessarily cut it, and it's not necessarily going to come out of our general budget very well either. So we'll be working with the borough on how to do that. We're working with other municipalities in the region on doing that very same thing. So the program will get covered with an appropriate means of some sort of fee. So I guess with that, that's the plan in a nutshell. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions at this point? You did a good job. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to the borough for being so good about working with us on this effort all since day one.
Jeff, we need to solicit comments from the audience. Do we need to solicit comments from the audience here?
We should. I didn't want to ask any questions, and they'd have to report it.
Oh, for the public?
Yeah, the public should have any questions. right?
Are there any questions from the public? If there is, please approach the podium and state your name. Hearing none, anything else, Mr. Solicitor, to make it official?
I think that would conclude the hearing. Because any questions will go back to DEP, correct?
Yes, and it's fine to ask questions if you have them. It really is.
I think it was very clear.
Okay.
We did receive, we received one email late today from a gentleman who has some comments and questions on the plan, and that was what Mr. Smith was referring to. Jason, thank you for all of your hard work with this thing. This thing has been tedious, pain in the butt, a nightmare that's been staring us in the eyes that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has turned a blind eye to for a long time, and now it's down our throats. You know, we've spent the last 7 years here talking about an administrative order for the sewer, but in the back of our minds, we knew that the MS4 piece was just as daunting, if not more, because DEP, quite honestly, and very publicly, isn't even sure what they're doing, because like you said, their rules change every day. I've been to numerous classes of theirs, and the rules change every time we go to one. To the point where I think we were in the same class in Lewisburg one time. They were arguing with each other over what the rules were. So I think it's finally starting to get clarified, and we have a lot of work in front of us, because not just the PRP piece, but there's operations things that we have to address as well that this doesn't necessarily deal with. And so there's a whole nother piece of this, and maybe you can touch on that a little bit. What they see in the PRP is not the full submission that we're doing. We have a whole nother half of this.
Correct, yes. I mean, once these best management practices are implemented over this 5-year term, there will be certainly expectation to monitor them and in some cases to prove the amount of material that they're removing. Some of that will be model-based, some of it is just going to be theory, that if it said we got 80% removal, then that's what we're getting, and this is the number of pounds that get calculated in the model, so that's what's been removed. But things like street sweeping, there will be a requirement to probably, I would think, take some subsamples of what is collected, dried, and then we get the dry weight of that, and then report that as a total weight for the borough's collection program. We'll work on how to do the math on that and try to keep this stuff as simple as possible going forward, which we've done all along, working with the borough. So those are the types of things that are going to be necessary. We don't know where it's going to go in the end. We don't know if it's going to grow. We don't know if there's going to be a higher requirement on reductions. We do know that DEP has been talking about removing pathogens from stormwater, and in some cases, and it's in the plan here, there's a table that lists out what the streams, the local streams, are impaired for. And you basically have 3 different drainage areas. They all go to the Little Lehigh, but there's 3 different sub-drainages. One is for the Lehigh River itself. The other one is Little Lehigh Creek, and the other one is Liebert Creek. They actually look 5 miles downstream from the borough in order to tell you what the impairments are that affect planning here in the borough. And those impairments are oxygen enrichment, low dissolved oxygen, siltation, and suspended solids, and then also pathogens. And pathogens are an issue in the Little Lehigh Creek and in Liebert Creek. So DEP is looking to address pathogens as part of this MS4 program. It's just we're not sure exactly how that's going to happen yet. So we're anticipating within the next year or two that we're going to hear about how we're going to address pathogens as part of the program. So we will keep working at things, and we keep close communications with DEP on this, trying to get all the right answers. They're kind of under the gun a little bit too, because this stuff all comes down from EPA, actually, at the federal level. So DEP's reacting to it. They've been trying to help the boroughs and townships throughout the state with this program. Doesn't always feel that way, but they have been trying to help with getting this understood and implemented. So we'll keep working with DEP and trying to make this stuff happen the right way here in the borough.
Actually, I have just a brief question. So obviously, the environmental impacts, that is an obvious benefit. But do you think that our entire system will also work better when we're reducing the sediment, the amount of sediment that sits in our system? I mean, right now, there are certain days when everyone knows, all right, if it rains a certain depth or a certain intensity, our streets will flood. Do you think this will maybe help with the reduction of that? Is it if the system is working better, or do you think that it's not really going to improve the system? It's really just focused on the environmental side.
Theoretically, I think it should, but there will be some issues. I suppose probably with the filter bags and maintenance of the filter bags. They will work well under lower flow conditions, but under really high flow conditions, having a filter bag in an inlet may actually increase the street flooding. I would hope that it wouldn't increase flooding that would be endangered.
Yeah, I would say
life
it's
or
mostly street
property,
flooding
but-
that we see.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things it's going to make us do is flush our current stormwater lines and
Correct.
address the inlets that have trees growing out of them, and
Yeah.
because they're been filled with sediment and we haven't torn off an inlet cover since they were put on. So in that regard, it is barest, yes, it will. However, now we're talking about putting an inlet bag in there. If we don't maintain those inlet bags,
Yeah.
it's going to be worse.
Right, yeah, I could see that, but I mean, I guess if we're removing, I mean, that was a significant number, 185,000 pounds of sediment. You figured that has to have some resistance as water is going down, or the pipe that was a certain amount is now filled a quarter or
Undoubtedly, we should have been doing a much better job with stormwater management since this country was settled. Agriculture still remains the #1 source of sediment in our waterways, but urbanized areas also is very significant. So, we are correcting the sins of the past with this type of activity. That's why they're trying to get it done. It does make sense to do this. It's very difficult for municipalities to implement this and implement it quickly and fund it.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. I think in the long run, math probably works out that stormwater systems will get better and will be improved. We will see better drainage in the long run. At first, it's going to be a little bit tough
Yeah.
to deal with, but
Oh, yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Can I ask you one question? Sediment bags, how long do they last and how much do they cost?
Both good questions. We are right now saying, we're thinking an average of about $500 for a bag. They're permanent bags, and permanent, semi-permanent. We're hoping that they last several years. There is data on them, and there's companies that supply them and will work with us on speccing them out. They can be made to fit any inlet. There are going to be standard ones that hopefully will be a little bit cheaper. So we think that they're going to last a long time. We're hoping, to keep the cost around $500 a piece. It's the maintenance of them, pulling them out after storm events and emptying them, and getting that material out of the stormwater system, not putting it up on the bank where it's going to come back in. I mean, and I know I'm not being funny with that, but I've seen that over the years a lot in townships where the crews come out and clean out the inlets, and they just throw it up on the bank where it ends up getting washed right back in. So we have to do proper maintenance, but I think that they should work pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll be working with some of those companies going forward. We haven't fully addressed that issue yet because we're not at the point of putting them in.
Anybody else? Jason, I'd like to thank you. It's not easy. We have the federal EPA regulating the state DEP, who has to regulate every municipality in the state, and this is what we get. So, thank you. And the reason there weren't any more questions is because Shane's been doing a good job at updating us at the committee level. So we knew a lot of the things you mentioned already.
Yes, it has been very good working with this borough all along on this program, so thank you for that.
And thank you. We'll give him a second to clean up, and then we'll move on to approving the council meeting minutes.
Is that a punch? Clean up.
It's free here. All right. Is there a motion to approve the council meeting minutes from October 1st, 2018? Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilman Barrett. Any questions, additions, or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 6 ayes. We have no decisions on bids. We received 2 communications. Ashley Laura of the Emmaus Main Street Partners is requesting to hold old-fashioned Christmas on December 1st. I believe we don't need to take any action as this has been held for many years.
No, she is in attendance. I don't know if she wants to speak or not.
I mean, it's a yearly event. You don't,
We're not doing anything different.
okay.
It's pretty consistent.
And we don't even need to approve the date or the usage of the
No.
trend. Okay.
We're good.
Then we received a letter from John Fernbacher of Lindbergh Avenue in Allentown requesting appointment to Community Garden Commission. Was he interviewed already?
He was not.
Okay, so we'll set that up with the community
Yep.
community relations. Anybody else receive a letter of communication?
On your desk, I think.
The Faith Presbyterian. All right, we received a letter from Faith Presbyterian Church, Reverend Rebecca Malazi. Would like to formally request the use of the Pearl Triangle December 24th at 11:30. They'd like to invite the community to join them for an informal Christmas Eve service. And they promise not to go overboard on the noise since it will be late in the evening. And they thank you.
They did it last year.
I believe that, yeah, I was going to say this is a past event. So we'll let staff handle that?
Yeah, I think this is their 3rd year.
Let staff handle that? All right. Anybody else have a letter of communication? All right, hearing none.
You should have one more.
Yeah, Eva Seibert.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah, we have an application for the Emmaus Garden Commission, and we'll also send that to the Community Relations Committee.
Was it Eva Seibert?
Eva Seibert is applying for that position. I think that would bring us up to 5 or 6.
It's
Some,
getting pretty popular.
and I think we can have up to what, 11?
7, I think. I'm not sure.
7? Anyhow. No Borough Engineers Report, Solicitors
Just get rid of
Report.
it.
Mr. President, I've been very busy doing a lot of things, but they would be basically confidential, so I have no formal report.
Thank you. Unfinished business Part 1, we have the second reading of ordinance number 1180, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending ordinance 1099 and Chapter 15, subsection 602.2.a of the Emmaus Borough Code, removing a residential handicap parking sign on a public street located in front of 640 Minor Street within the Borough of Emmaus. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 1180? Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilman Barrett. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote. Councilman Dufresne?
Aye.
Councilman Barrett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner?
Aye.
Councilman Schubsta?
Aye.
Councilman Anders?
Aye.
Councilman Layberg? Aye, there are 6 ayes. Under new business, we have 2 ordinances. Ordinance number 1181, an ordinance authorizing the Borough of Emmaus to enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the boroughs of Albertus and Macungie and the townships of Lower Macungie, Lower Milford, and Upper Milford to implement the Southwestern Lehigh County Comprehensive Plan, October 2017, including provisions related to purpose, powers, and scope of authority, Southwest Lehigh Steering Committee, adoption of conforming ordinances, general consistency, developments of regional significance and impact, implementation roles and responsibilities, annual reports, amendment and review of the plan, dispute resolution, effective date, and termination. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve 1181? Councilman Schubsta, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. Any questions or discussion?
I have some questions.
Councilwoman Baumgartner?
Yeah, so, taking a look at it, I'm looking at the, what is this, Exhibit A. Okay, hang on a second.
Looking at what?
I'm trying to find which page number. Page 5. Let me see if that's right. No, not page 5. Page 3. Sorry.
Page 3. Which section would it be under?
Sorry, it's page 2, section 5. That's why my notes got mixed up. All right. So I'm looking at the first paragraph, second to last sentence, any use sharing beyond. I thought the language was a little confusing, and I'm wondering if they're talking about outside the scope of what's identified in the plan. And it's, from what I understand, it's saying that if they want to go outside the scope of what's identified in the plan, it requires that they need to amend the plan in the agreement. Is that clear? Is that right? The way it's written, it says, any use sharing beyond what is identified within the plan must undergo an amendment to the plan in this agreement before municipality may make use changes.
No, it's, yeah, so what it's saying is, the whole idea of this whole section is that there'd be shared uses. In other words, if, for example, a municipality doesn't want adult book clubs in their municipality, well, the law says we have to zone to allow that somewhere. But if another municipality has enough that we can use their zoning, if they have enough space that we can use their zoning, then we can not allow it here because it's somewhere else in the plan. So because we're using other people's shared zoning for those reasons, what it says is if you decide to change the way that it's already set up, then you have to do it this way. You're not allowed, that you can't just go and uniformly change it by yourself.
Right.
Right. But I was just saying the language was a little,
Well, that's straight out of the Pennsylvania Municipality Planning Code.
Yeah.
okay. And then I had another question about, okay, I have another question on page 3. There's a typo in section 6, paragraph 2. Association should be associated.
What section?
These are
Paragraph,
things that you need to
section 6, paragraph 2.
contact me on ahead of time.
Yep. And then section 9, the last sentence in section 9, so running from page 3 to page 4, was, I just needed some clarity on what that's asking. So it sounds like such reports, the first part of that sentence is referring to all annual reports, right? Not just the ones required by the steering committee. So any annual report submitted by a municipality, including the one submitted by the steering committee, right? Okay, shall include summaries. So this is where I got a little lost. So it's asking for a couple things, and I guess I'm just a little confused where the stop and the start is. So all these reports need to include summaries of public infrastructure. Bad issue. And then there are few and like multiple ands happening, and I'm just trying to understand where the next requirement stops and starts, if that makes sense.
No.
Okay. So it says such reports shall include summaries of public infrastructure needs in growth areas and progress toward meeting those needs through capital improvement plans and implementing actions and reports on development applications and dispositions for residential, commercial, and industrial development in each participating municipality for the purpose of evaluating the extent of provision for all categories of use and housing for all income levels within the region of the plan. So are they just asking, so there's an infrastructure, we have to report on the infrastructure and any progress towards meeting that. And I'm just a little lost on, so they have to talk about capital improvement plans and implementing actions related to that and reports related to public infrastructure. And so that's all connected to public infrastructure?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
Mr. President, may I address this? This is relatively straightforward. I'll be as simple as I can. Under the MPC, each municipality must provide for all uses. If you get a comprehensive plan and agree to modify your ordinances to try to generally conform to it, then all of the applicants that are in the plan get to count those uses as within our zone. However, there is a test of reasonableness. So in other words, you couldn't put all the gas stations in Albertus. Couldn't do that. If there's a third category, and that's if you go with the plan and then do joint zoning. That, of course, takes the powers away from you and a lot of other things because you have a joint zoning commission. If you do that, then the reasonableness condition is gone, and basically, you're almost immune from suit for, unless you exclude it in all the municipalities. So there's 3 levels. We're in the center level. It's probably the right spot to be, and all this agreement does is implement that.
Yeah, I understand the agreement overall. I just had specific questions about some of the languaging for
The
clarity.
language, I understood.
Purpose. That's all.
By the way, just so you know, every municipality has the same exact document. All right,
Could I ask, do you know when the final reading will be on this?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. And the reason Lower Milford called me today,
Well, that's because their person didn't give them the right copy.
I know, but they also wanted to know, they already have enacted one and they want to unenact it and enact this one. So 4 weeks from now. Okay. Thank you.
We can correct the one word, the
Yes,
misspelling.
absolutely.
Not an issue, right?
It's not material to your
substantial.
vote.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? This is a roll call vote. Councilman Dufresne?
Aye.
Councilman Shipsta?
Aye.
Councilman Anders?
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner?
Aye.
Councilman Barrett?
Aye.
Councilman Layberg? There are 6 ayes. We have one more ordinance, 1182, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending ordinance 1099 in Chapter 15, subsection 602.2.a of the Emmaus Borough Code, removing a residential handicap parking sign on the public street located in front of 624 Walnut Street within the Borough of Emmaus. Was somebody like to make a motion to approve the ordinance? Councilman Barrett, second by Councilman Anders. Any questions? So roll call vote. Councilman Dufresne?
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner?
Aye.
Councilman Barrett?
Aye.
Councilman Anders?
Aye.
Councilman Shubsta?
Aye.
Councilman Layberg? There are 6 ayes. The ordinance 1181 and 1182, as Shane said, will have the second reading in 4 weeks.
Oh. No. Because we have an extra week.
So it'll be 5 weeks.
No, we have an extra week between this meeting and the next one. So actually, it'll be in 3 weeks. November 5th.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be in 3 weeks.
It
We'll
moves
have
it up
time to
because it
advertise.
meets the requirement, and,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
We have no unfinished business, part 2. Anybody have an item to bring that up that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, mayor's report.
Thank you. Just one item. October 26th is trick or treat night from 6 to 8. Police department will be handing out candy this year along with grilling hot dogs. We still have hot dogs left over from National Night Out, so we will be grilling hot dogs and handing out candy.
Are you
So,
cooking them?
I'll be there.
Are you serving them?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
She has a costume. You guys have.
It's also Parkland versus Emmaus.
Yes, there is a home football game that night. Yeah. so,
Parkland.
Yeah, it'll be busy here in town, but it'll be a fun night, so progress.
Progress. Committee reports, Public Works Committee, Chairman Anders.
We have nothing for official action. Our meeting for October was canceled. I'm assuming the November one is as well, that Shane has December as the next meeting. Is that correct, sir?
I think that it is actually, but your problem is you can meet, but nobody will be here because it's a holiday, it's a borough holiday that
Okay,
would be
so
scheduled.
Then the next one will be December. Progress.
Thank you. Health, Sanitation, and Codes Committee, Chairman Shubsta.
Nothing for official action. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 31st at 4:30 PM. Progress.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee, Chairwoman Baumgartner.
Nothing for official action. Next meeting is November 6th at 4:30.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Dufresne.
Nothing for official action. Our next meeting is November 14th at 9:15 a.m. probably.
Thank you. General Administration Committee is myself. We have the firefighters collective bargaining agreement to passed tonight. I just want to mention that negotiations have been going on for about 3 months.
Yeah, something like that.
It's always tough when you start from scratch to have a brand-new contract. We learned some stuff from the firefighters, they learned some stuff from us, educational on both sides, and I believe everybody's happy that it's fair. The borough's happy that it's within our budget, which is our main concern, because we don't want to have to address a tax increase for this, so with that, excuse me?
Again.
Yeah. So with that being said, you just ask for a motion to approve. So is there a motion to approve the firefighters' collective bargaining agreement? Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilman Barrett. Questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 6 ayes. We have Resolution 2018-35, the Lehigh County Hazardous Mitigation Plan. You have the resolution on your attachment, and would somebody like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2018-35? Councilman Anders, seconded by Councilman Barrett. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 6 ayes. Our next meeting is October 25th here in council chambers at 9 a.m. Progress. Budget and Finance Committee, Chairman Barrett.
We have one item that requires official action. That is our bill list, which is Resolution 2018-34, and I'll place that in the form of a motion.
It's a motion by Councilman Barrett. Is there a second? Councilman Dufresne. Any questions on the bill list? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 6 ayes. Progress?
Progress.
Community Relations Planning and Development Committee. Does somebody have a report in absence of Chairwoman McManaman?
Nope, I don't think we have anything to report
Nothing
right now.
for action.
We're currently
Okay.
just working on the new website.
So we'll go with the progress.
Progress, the
The-
October meeting
The,
is canceled.
the November meeting will be rescheduled.
Okay.
When Mrs. McManaman comes back into town, we'll figure out the date, but that meeting date will be rescheduled.
The one
Okay.
time.
And I think we definitely need to meet because you guys need to work on details of the website, right, Ms. Baumgartner,
I think so.
right?
Yeah,
So,
we just gotta go review all the things that we have on our list.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think the intention was just to reschedule.
Okay.
So right now, the meeting, the
Okay.
scheduled meeting for November is off.
And that will have to be duly advertised then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next is boards and commission meeting minutes. You have 3 various ones. A report from the fire department and police department and the Main Street program. Personal appeals part 2. Does anyone have an appeal? Hearing none. Borough managers report.
The significant revenue and expense items for the first half of October is in your iPad. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, you see on your desk what I've been working on nonstop for months. You have a 208-page, I'd call it a masterpiece, but it's not. It's 208 pages. I expect you to read it fully by next week.
Next Thursday?
Next Thursday will be your first budget workshop. Underneath of that, you have your first rough draft of a budget. We have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do, okay? So if you read nothing else in your iPad, because if you look in your iPads, the entire budget is posted. I gave you thumb drives. They are the property of the Borough of Emmaus, so I do expect them back sooner or later. But that has everything on it. All my worksheets, all the spreadsheets. If you want to go in there and do your own math, feel free. All the calculations, literally hundreds of files are on that. So have fun with it. But if you cannot make a workshop, please send me an email. I received, I think, one council member. There's at least one workshop Chris can't make. I know that Mr. Ladenberger was talking about one that perhaps he's not going to be able to make, but please send me an email because it is going to be
Near
of
the
the
end.
utmost importance that
Near the end.
we know who's going to make it because we have a lot to talk about. The department managers will be here. Let's not waste their time. They put in many, many more hours than even you guys do. They almost put in as many hours as I do. They work very hard on this. They take this very seriously. They will be here for our 4-hour marathons. You guys have your work cut out for you on this one. Right? You all do. So start writing in notes, start circling things, start looking at the calculations because I think we have a lot of discussions to have. If you read nothing else in the next couple weeks, the budget message captures everything that the departments ask for. They speak of a lot of the numbers that you're seeing in the budget. They speak of a lot of the challenges that we're going to be facing. So if you read nothing else at all, that budget message is your first document to read over. Okay. Other than that, I do want to thank Kathy. She spent 3 days reviewing this thing and trying to make it at least so that you can read it. I want to thank Christine for all her hard work. All the girls in town hall had some major input on trying to get numbers for me at the last minute. So I appreciate all of their due diligence as well as all the departments that worked hard to submit their requests. They know that what they spent 2 months doing is just 3 months doing. I give them their request in July, but that's just the beginning of the process. The real process starts right now with you guys. So good luck. If you have questions, please email me, call me, write to me. We take snail mail, although you have to count on the post office to get it here. But we have a lot of work to do. So I'll report progress.
I just want to point out under the significant revenue and expenses that the top 4 expenses were all pension payments, and it totals over $1 million, just to mention that to the public. I believe it was like $1,043,000 or something like that. So just want to point that out.
Well, and I mean, and to that end, your challenges in your budgets with every municipality begins and ends with salaries and benefits. And next year is no change to that. That is really, those are things that I can't personally control. But those are where we have our challenges. And in our last contracts, I think we negotiated 4 very fair contracts. I think we got a lot of long-term gains. But as we talked, we also gave up some short-term expenses to get those long-term gains. At the end of the day, we save millions and millions of dollars, but you have to deal with the short-term expenses that go with it, and your budgets very much reflect that.
Just so you don't confuse those of us that are easy to confuse like me, our budget workshop is Tuesday, our first one next week, not Thursday, correct?
He said Thursday, right?
No,
You agreed.
You
You said
said Thursday.
Thursday.
My days just blend together. So.
But yes, it is
It's
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Starts with a T.
He's worried about
Day.
he's actually sponsoring dinner next Tuesday, so he wanted to make sure he gets it on the right day. No, you're right, Mr. Dufresne. It's
I
Tuesday.
just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
nothing changed.
I'm still blaming it on Brent though.
Any update on our 10th Street?
Sure. Whether or not you want to believe this is up to you.
I don't know. I've
But
been asking this for months.
Dolly Construction finally gave us a construction schedule. The first date of construction starts on the 29th, according to them.
Of what year?
I'm not even gonna honor that with a comment. And they make the claim that on December 5th, it will be open to traffic.
That'll be early Christmas.
Maybe
present.
Shane, we should have some helmets and then go out there with a shovel and celebrate this.
We should probably make bets too as to whether or not that's gonna happen.
Wow.
But that is what they. I mean, let's clear something publicly. The reason that project is not going on right now has nothing to do with the convenience store that's coming in. Like that was actually somebody asked that question at the planning commission meeting the other day. That is not why this project hasn't started. It has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with the engineering and the contractor and getting this thing going. The contractor blames it on the weather and other projects that are backed up. I don't care. I'm tired of excuses. I just want the project done. It has nothing to do with anything else other than we signed a contract a long time ago and they haven't begun work. So December 5th is what they're telling us.
Anything else for Shane? All right, under President's Business, I have nothing. Motion to adjourn. Councilman Barrett, second by Councilwoman Bob Gardner.
We've done this before.
Just for that, I'm going to make you wait for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 6 ayes. Meeting adjourned at 7:51.